So before we start, I'd like to say thank you to Pramila for such a warm introduction. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here today. And thank you to all the organisers of today's event. It always humbles me to bear witness to such incredible souls who put their time and energy into creating events like today. It speaks to their belief in the power of community and the power of connection, and in the magic that can be sparked when a group of women gather together. I have the pleasure of knowing some of you already, but for those of you who don't know me, I am Nina Tara Winters, known as Tara Winters, also Nina from family, and I'm Anita Prabhu's daughter. I'm a chartered accountant, an award-winning life coach, a speaker, writer, tarot card reader, and mother of three. And to give you a little bit of background on how I arrived at this work, I was a very academic, studious girl, and I did well at school, worked really hard, and I found myself at the age of 30 at vice president level at Goldman Sachs in London, pregnant with my second child. And I was exhausted, but I also looked around me and I saw a lot of people who were really, really wealthy, had more money than any of us could ever imagine, all these bankers, but none of them seemed that happy. And I wondered, we're all aiming to be rich and successful, and all these people who have it, they don't seem that happy to me. So I started going on another journey. I went into the world of yoga and spirituality, and I noticed in my yoga groups that a lot of my yoga friends didn't have much money, and they were always kind of scrimping and saving and worrying about how they were going to afford, things coming up. And I thought, well, these souls, they're beautiful, spiritual, wonderful souls that are only interested in good things for our world. Why don't they have the money to have the life that they want either? So that's what started me on this journey of wondering how we could bring these two things together. And I'm interested and so excited about speaking to you today about creating a life of abundance. And we will be looking at a few different things. One of the things we'll be looking at is what exactly is an abundant life, why money is such a triggering topic for us, why we need more money to flow into the hands of more women, and understanding our money stories, and I'll explain a bit more about that later, and how we can rewrite our money stories. So, what is an abundant life, and why is it so important? So, an abundant life is one in which you feel energized and vibrant and inspired and supported, connected. You experience joy, self-worth, you have purpose or meaning in your life, and you feel alive. And you also have enough financial abundance so that you can live life on your own terms, that you're supported to create all those things. The beautiful thing about an abundant life is it will look different for every single one of us. So you might experience joy while you're in nature, or while you're spending time with loved ones, while you're cooking, while you're learning something new, when you're teaching, when you're leading a team or a project, when you're creating art, when you're being an activist for change in the world, when you're being of service. It can come in so many different forms. And actually, it's contagious, because when you live a life that is abundant for you, you are lit up, you're energized, and all the people in the world around you, so your family, your friends, your colleagues, can't help but feel lit up in your presence too. So we've been sold in our life, we've been sold a very narrow definition of abundance. As I've said before, we've all been given this message that an abundant life is one where we're rich, we've got lots of financial wealth. And so we can quite often feel like we're not living an abundant life if we're not rich. But financial abundance is one aspect of an abundant life. And it's an important aspect, and we'll be going into that more later, but it's only one aspect. So in order to know what your version of an abundant life is, it's about getting to know yourself a little bit better and knowing what lights you up. And so we want to find out, and it's not something that you can just do in one sitting. You might already have a lot of knowledge about yourself, but sometimes because we haven't been encouraged to get to know ourselves that often. It can be a bit of a longer process. So we're just going to kickstart that today. So we're trying to get to the bottom of what you want out of life. What makes you feel lit up and alive? What makes you feel at peace and contented? What's your own personal definition of success? And how can you start living it right now? So that's what we're going to start. We are going to dive into the first activity in our worksheets. And you'll see a list of core values there. This is a pretty limited list because I didn't want to overwhelm any of us with it. We're going to circle 3 to 5 words that really jump out at you, that are the things that light you up the most. We're not going to circle things that we think we should do or things that other people think we should do. We're going to be deliciously selfish and circle the ones we want. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. Spirituality and nature. So for me, going for a bushwalk is actually a spiritual experience. So if you can come up with the activities that bring me joy, so the next activity there, 5 activities, and they can be really small, like having a quiet cup of tea in your back garden. Just anything that speaks to those top words that you've circled. That would be fabulous.
Just 5, is it? For the first one? Really? Sorry, Tara, I just happened to miss some of the things. Are you supposed to just stick 5 and
your
then
top
elaborate
5.
on that?
Yeah, your top 5.
Yeah.
And then down here, you
Each one.
yeah,
each
so say
point.
for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. What lights you up?
Yeah.
in terms of that. Yeah. Just something that you can do to
Okay,
bring it
thanks.
into your life.
So if you put adventure, then
Yeah.
you know already from which
That's
direction and whatever you do, whatever
So
jumping you
what
do.
is
No,
that?
she's done whatever. So you put that as well.
Okay. And just 5, right?
Top 5.
Okay.
It's hard.
Yeah, top 5 is on.
Okay, I'll just give everyone a minute to finish up. Okay, so I would love to know, does anyone have anything on their list that is completely free, like it doesn't cost them anything to do? Hands up if there is anything on your list that...
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, if you've got anything on your list that doesn't cost any money to do or doesn't cost much money to do. Okay, that's incredible. Is there, hands up if the majority on the things on your list don't cost much to do? Okay, isn't that amazing? So, what I would love to encourage you to do is to keep this as almost like a menu of things to choose from in your life when there are times when you don't feel like you're enough. If you don't feel like you're smart enough, beautiful enough, skinny enough, that you don't have enough money, that you don't have enough time, that you don't have enough. Because we live in a world where we're encouraged to think of scarcity, where advertisers are bombarding us with messages every day. And if you look at the ads that you're exposed to every day and start looking for what they're trying to convince you of, they're actually trying to convince you that you're not enough of something and that you're missing something, and therefore you need to go buy their product or service to feel enough. So a lot of beauty advertisers, it's very clear how they do that, but almost all advertising does that. And we're always taught that, there's not enough time. I mean, we all feel the time pressured, I think during COVID was one of the, first times that when we were all forced to stay home that we didn't feel that as much. So this is your menu for those times when you don't feel enough and when the world bombards you with that message that you are not enough. This is your abundance hack, I guess, those things on your list. So coming to money then, why is money such a triggering topic for so many of us? Well, most of us think that money is a pretty black or white topic, right? Like we think you either have it or you don't. You're either good at managing it or you're not. Sometimes we ascribe moral failings to money. So you might think that wealthy people are selfish or they're greedy, they're arrogant, they're materialistic, they're superficial. We often measure our level of success against others based on how much money we have and how much money they have, or how much money we think they have, because we never actually know. We just judge it on which cars they drive and what their house looks like, but who knows how much money they've borrowed for those things, or what else is going on in their lives. And we can often feel like a failure if they've got more money than us, or we think they do. We assume that we'll have to sacrifice our health or our relationships to have more money. We often attach more money to needing more work, to having to work hard for money. And we think that if money can come easily, there must be a trap, there must be a catch somewhere, because we've been taught that we have to work really hard for it. So if you grew up in a household where your parents fought about money and it was a constant source of stress, really, you might want nothing to do with money now. You want to wash your hands of it and let someone else handle it. If you grew up in a family where there was a scarcity of money, it wasn't, a massive source of stress, but you were aware of that scarcity, then you might want to control money or manage money really well. The amount of money going in, the amount of money going out. And if you grew up in a household where there was enough money, or it felt like there was enough money, and you managed to get most things that you wanted as a child, then you might wonder what all the fuss is about. You might think, why is everyone going on about money, and why do they care so much? And you might also tend to overspend a little bit and, wonder why everyone's so stressed about money. So the thing is that we are all born into this world. You imagine yourself coming to the world as the lovely little baby that you were. You came into the world knowing nothing of money. Nothing. It was a neutral topic. It was neither good nor bad. It just was. It was pieces of paper and bits of metal coins that were exchanged for something else. But it was our childhood experience of money and the messages that we received from our parents and our teachers and from society in general that made us think that money meant something more. And all those subtle messages that we attach to money, and we've all got different subtle messages depending on how we grew up, those subtle messages are your money stories. And as I said, they're all different depending on how you grew up, but there's also some common ones. So you and I might share some similar money stories because we're women. And we might share some similar money stories because we're women of colour. there are so many money stories that we receive on so many different levels. So there is good news and bad news about this. The bad news is that if you don't realise you're carrying any of these money stories, they just operate in the background of your mind, and they shape the way you behave, the way you think, and ultimately they become self-fulfilling, and they shape how much abundance and how much money you let into your life. If you think that wealthy people are greedy and selfish and arrogant, then you're unlikely to ever become wealthy yourself, because who wants to sign up for being, greedy and selfish? And the way that would work is that you don't realise that you're doing that, but you may just overspend a little bit, or you might give away your money to others, or you sabotage yourself in small ways that ends up with you not having much wealth. The good news is that once you are aware of this, there is lots you can do about it. So once we start identifying what our old beliefs are about money, or what our current beliefs are about money, then we can start to hold them up to the light and examine them and really test out if they're true. And we'll be doing that together a little later. We'll be unplugging some of our money stories and starting to let more money come into our lives. But first, I'd love to talk about why we need more money in the hands of more women. Does anybody have any thoughts about this? I'd love to hear your ideas. Why do we need more money for women? Yes.
Because woman is not just herself, but she manages a family, she gives birth to kids, and so if women know how to manage their money and they have more money, then they'll also pass it on to their family and all the others, so it will be multiplied. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you, that's awesome. Anybody else?
So I think that's one of the main points as well.
Yeah.
As she said, because they manage the house as well. So,
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, well, I think we nailed it, actually. You guys absolutely got it. So at a very basic level, the more money that women have, the more sovereignty we have. So money gives you the ability to walk away from toxic and abusive relationships. So, supporting the sanctuary, those women have had to escape those kind of situations. So we're so thankful that there are organisations like the sanctuary that support them, but with money, women have so much more power to walk away. Yes, boss.
I thought I'll not say it, but I'm dying to say this. Now, when you say you don't like money and you're not for money, and I was just putting down all my values, and I saw most of the things I want don't need money. Yes, there was one would have. What I'm trying to say is, all my life, I have not felt that need to manage money. I don't know why. But now when you're talking, and at this age of mine, I'm beginning to feel a little bit, I don't know where, it's unconsciously coming up. So hopefully today your talk will open up that area. But I've never felt, maybe, I don't know, because maybe the men, since you're doing the men women thing, all right, even though I came up, I was brought up in a family where my dad did not give any importance to finance. Mom struggled at the end very badly. I still did not, it's in my gene, I think, or what it is, that I really don't worry about money. I don't care. But I think subconsciously, because as much as my husband has financially retired, I would say I'm still working. So I don't know what I'm struggling with, so hopefully you will open that door.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to speak to you more about that. It will come up. As it comes up, you'll start to notice little hints, little clues that will bring it up for you. And I'll give you some examples of people that I've spoken to where that has happened for them as well. Money, it's interesting because we don't want to wish for more money. We don't want to talk about it too much because it does make us seem like really materialistic, right? But when you dive into this work, it'll be interesting to see how more money starts to flow to you without you working hard for it. So Money gives us the ability to walk away from toxic and abusive relationships, also toxic and abusive jobs. You know, if you've been bullied at work or you're in a workplace that doesn't feel great, if you've got enough money to walk away from that before you find another job, like how amazing is that? Or so it just gives you that little bit of power. It also supports you in living your version of an abundant life. So money, you can spend that on your health and well-being, on your education or education for your children, your hobbies and interests, creating memories with loved ones, you know, with holidays, outsourcing things like cleaning or childcare, and supporting causes that are close to your heart. And it also gives you peace of mind, knowing that if things weren't to go to plan, that you have money, that you don't need to worry about it. You'll be okay financially. But there's also something bigger at play here, and I think this is what both of our lovely speakers volunteered a few minutes ago. Women are, generally speaking, very community-minded. When a woman has more money, it ripples out into our community and benefits everybody. She might use it to give her children a better future. She might use it to support causes that she believes in. She might use it to support small businesses or organisations that she believes in financially. So you buy their products because you want to keep them in business. For centuries, men have been in charge of money. They have. And if you look around at the world we have today, you see that our environment is depleted, we've got disconnection, we've got so many ways in which profit is put ahead of people and put ahead of Mother Nature. Something's out of balance. And I think with more women having more money, we might start tipping that balance, because we can start directing our money towards things that we really believe in. And if you think of every dollar that you spend is a vote towards the kind of world that you would really wish for, then you can start to see how powerful your money is. So in a minute, we're going to have a little chat with the person next to us. So if you don't know them, it's a good opportunity to introduce yourself. And we're going to talk about 3 things that we've spent our money on in the last 12 months. And these 3 things are going to be, 1, for ourselves. So something we spent on for ourselves that might be wonderful and made us feel good. Then the next thing is going to be something that we spent on for a family member or for our friends. So it could be for your children, it could be for your partner or your parents, or a friend of yours. And the third thing is going to be something that we've spent on for our community. So it could be the donation to the sanctuary. It could be something that you get something for. So for instance, I, when I can, I buy organic produce for my family. So for me, that's putting money towards encouraging a sustainable farming model, but it also benefits my family. So if you can hit 2 things with each thing that you put down. So in your worksheets, you'll see on the second page, number 1, 2 and 3. So something you spent on money for yourself, something for a friend or family member, and something on your community. And you might even see that when you put something down, it has a benefit for someone else too. So when I've spent money on myself, I've come home and I'm a much better mother because I feel more fulfilled and less, exhausted. So if you can hit 2 things with 1, go for it. So first write them down and then turn to the person next to you and have a little chat about it.
I feel that because that my thing, right?
So we've established why we want more money in the hands of more women. So what's stopping us from having more money? It actually comes back to our money stories, so those subconscious beliefs that we've picked up throughout our lifetime. So I'll give you a couple of examples of people that I've spoken to recently. So one of my clients, when I first met her, she told me that she always struggled with money. She never had enough. As soon as it came in, it went out again. And even when she was earning good money, it would seem to find a way of going out. And so when we started diving into it a little bit more, we were talking about her childhood, and she told me that she had grown up in a family that didn't have much money. They were always scrambling. She was the oldest of 5 children, and when she was a teenager, she got part-time work after school. And her mother soon realised that her daughter was bringing in some money, and demanded that she hand over the money to her parents to help with the family. And so this clever girl decided, well, I'm earning this money and it's only going to be taken away from me, so I'm going to spend it before my mum can get her hands on it. And so she would do all kinds of things. She would, shout her friends milkshakes after school, and she would find all kinds of crazy ways to spend that money that she earned, because she didn't feel safe having money at home because she knew it would be taken away from her. So that story started when she was a teenager. And so as an adult, it plays out again, right? So now as an adult, without her realising it, she spends her money, and she doesn't realise that she's doing it. She will see a pretty dress and buy it. She'll treat herself to various things, when the urge strikes, and end up with no money at the end of the day. And she realised that she was just replaying this story, that she didn't actually feel safe to have money, to keep money aside. It felt really uncomfortable for her. I had another client who had a very different experience growing up. So she grew up in a family who they weren't rich. They were middle class. I think her father was a tradesman, her mum was a stay-at-home mum, but they had the best life. There was a lot of love in their family. So it was the parents and their two daughters. They were really connected, and their father had a love of adventure. They'd go camping. They went on a camping trip once for 6 weeks all the way up to Cape York, which is the northernmost tip of Australia. They took 6 weeks off and did a road trip up there and back. And even the mundane, everyday stuff was made amazing and fun and magical. And as an adult, she is now a teacher, and her husband is self-employed, and they make pretty good money. But they don't seem to have that much saved at the end of every month. And she couldn't figure out why, and she actually was like, I don't care about money, like what's the big fuss, you don't need money. And when we dove into it with her, she realised that she actually thought if she became wealthy, that she wouldn't be able to give her children those same fun experiences, because she thought, when you get wealthy, you don't go on camping trips, you go on fancy holidays, and you don't have that level of connection with your family because you're just about the money. And so she was actually undermining herself in terms of wealth, because she didn't want to, she wanted to recreate the same childhood for her children that she had. And so it's funny now, actually, when I speak to her, she laughs and tells me how, she gets these free vouchers for things, and she gets all money coming to her now that she's started to unplug from some of these beliefs. The money is starting to flow much more easily for her. Another client I had, a man actually, he had a story around hard work, that you can only get money through hard work. And he is self-employed, and he worked so hard for every bit of money, and there was an option for him in his business to hire someone else to do some of the work, but he was reluctant to do it. In fact, he didn't actually see that option available to him. And it was because he had this subconscious programming saying that he had to work really hard for his money, that the thought of getting somebody else on board to make money for him just didn't cross his mind. So there are lots of little ways that it plays out in your life. So as women, we are even more likely to carry money stories. So if you as a child were conditioned to be, and I think most women are in general, we're conditioned to be good, we're conditioned to be polite, to not ask for too much, to put other people's comfort ahead of our own. And we often grow up to be women that are terrified of asking for a pay rise at work. We'll spend money on our children, but not on ourselves. We might lend our money to family or friends, and often this comes at sacrifice to ourselves. We might leave managing the finances to our husbands because we don't think that we are clever enough to do it. We think that they're better at it. We don't talk about money with each other because we think it's impolite. But then we never learn about money, because how else do we learn? We don't learn this stuff in school. We don't learn often from our parents. We don't learn about money. So we don't learn. And as women, talking about anything is one of the main ways we learn. We learn so much from talking together today, and that's why even just today is just a wonderful thing to feel comfortable talking about money, because we learn so much. So you can see how we start gathering all these stories. So if we go back to the idea that money is neutral, it's neither good nor bad, and it's just about the stories that we carry over the years that make it good or bad. We're going to start doing a little bit of investigating into our own money stories now. So I want you to think back to your own childhood and to the household that you were raised in. And I want you to do this with love and compassion for your parents and for yourself. This is not about judgment, it is not about blame, and if it helps to come at it from the angle of being, a reporter or a journalist rather than, being you, to take out the emotional charge, that's always helpful. But as I said, just love and compassion is the main thing. So I'll give you a personal example, and my mother is sitting in the room, so I hope this is not uncomfortable. So my parents immigrated to Australia in 1979, and they came knowing no one in Australia. They came at a few years after the white Australian policy had ended, so there were not many non-white people in Australia. They came with not much money, they came without jobs, they came with a 4-year-old child and a 4-month-old baby. And so you can imagine that they had a real, money was security for them, like there wasn't much going. And so as a child, I might have picked up some stories around, money is security, money is scarce, don't spend it on frivolous things, it's about security and safety. So we're going to dive into your childhoods here, and as I said, with love and compassion, no blame, because we're all doing our best, our parents did their best. And so on your worksheets, the next little activity there is a little bit about your mother's money background and your father's money background. So I want you to think, and this assumes that you know a little bit about your parents and their history, but if you can jot down some points about the household that your mother grew up in, that your father grew up in. Was it, middle income? Did they grow up, in poverty? Did they grow up with loads of money? Did they grow up in a household where women were not in charge of their money? So if you just jot down a few bullet points about your mother's money background, your father's money background, and then go on to your own family and how you grew up with money. Anyone get any moments of enlightenment or any surprises in doing that? Did anyone, feel like it? Okay.
Very sensitive.
Yeah, it is very sensitive.
I got out of it. We reached a different stage. Both of us went somewhere else.
We had a lot of abundance when we were living, when we grew up, and everything was not on money.
Yes.
The money was not the important factor. We never spoke about it, but there was enough things around you. You never felt you were deprived of anything. The way of life was different.
Yeah, you grew up
Different. Like when I grew up, I had only 5 frocks to wear. That's it. And we never felt that I wanted again for something else. I want to go and wear another new one for my friend's birthday, or I want a new for another day. No,
don't repeat.
we never asked for more than the 5 frocks. The best thing I remember wearing those 5 frocks on those 5 days, and I repeated that throughout the year. So it was way of life.
You don't repeat a single frock.
Yeah.
That's what she's saying. That's exactly what she's saying.
Isn't that amazing? So that minimalism,
Yeah.
it's funny how sometimes when you have less, you have more.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Exactly. That's what I'm realizing now.
And it was more sustainable lifestyle. Like if you have 2, 3 sisters, we all had too many dresses, if you want to see it that way, because we would exchange.
There is
So,
and
it's like
there's less clutter in your home. You have more kind of, your space feels more spacious, and it's more sustainable for the environment. Our fashion industry is like one of the biggest polluters.
Sorry, just talking about sustainability and my daughter, they are she's big time into the environment. Is it not?
So
So what they do is they buy clothes, and then when they are tired of what they are wearing, they have an exchange. So they all meet together and they put all their clothes on the table, and you just pick somebody else's clothes and you wear it. So you get something new. So it's not that they don't want to
You want
spend
her
money,
clothes?
but it is, for the environment. And the remaining, which no one wants, because it's out of fashion, or it doesn't fit, which is quite often, then they give it to Goodwill, which is the charity in US.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? I think we can, when we live into less is more, less time commitments, less money commitments, less stuff. There's so much abundance in that, isn't there? So much. So we don't have a lot of time left today, but I would love to just quickly go through a few steps that we can take to rewrite our money stories and to rewire our brains for more abundance. So there are loads of things we can do, but here are just a few. The first, and I think the biggest step, is to forgive. So forgive your parents, forgive yourself.
How?
How?
How is my question. I know that part. I just told my daughter that last week, but how? We need that another session.
That is
To
another
forgive
session,
your
but
parents. How to forgive your parents.
Another session. It's
because
quite deep.
and it's quite interesting when you look at this as a parent and think, oh my gosh, am I stuffing my children up with all the things that I'm saying?
It's deep.
It is deep, but I think if anything, that is the first and best thing you can do, is to work on the forgiveness. Forgiveness for them, because they were doing their best with the information they had from their parents, and forgiveness to yourself too for taking their stories on as your own. And know that in every single breath you take, that's an opportunity for a fresh start. We can start right now with a new story and a new start. Gratitude, I know that word gets bandied around so much now, but it is absolutely a huge part of creating an abundant life. When you feel gratitude for every form of abundance in your life, for the love that you have in your life, when you open your fridge and you see all the food in there, when you open your tap and you have fresh, clean drinking water flowing out of there, all the forms of abundance that you have in your life right now, every time you express appreciation for them, more abundance comes into your life. I don't know how it happens, it's on an energetic level, but more comes into your life. And so, a lot of us know this, but then there's an extra step here in gratitude for the bills that you pay. Now, this sounds a little bit edgier, but often when bills come in to pay, we can kind of feel like another drain on our money. But I encourage you to and invite you into feeling gratitude for the bills that you pay, gratitude for the electricity that you get to enjoy, which makes your life so much easier. I've gone camping many times and missed that electricity. And gratitude for your water bill. Every time money passes your hands, either coming in or coming out, just taking a little moment to feel gratitude for having the ability to pay for things and the ability to receive that money. And you start opening up the channel for more to come in. And another thing that we can do is practice the art of receiving. So, as women, we, hands up if anyone's ever said to you, oh, I love your dress, and you're like, oh, this whole thing only cost me $20. All the time, right? Or if somebody says, oh, my shout, I'll buy you lunch today, or I'll buy you coffee, and you're like, no, it's my turn, it's my turn. We do that all the time. We do not receive. We are so unpracticed at the art of receiving, and when we get good at receiving those little things in life, we get good at receiving bigger things in life, which, more money. So I really invite you to notice when you're, deflecting things and receive. So open up. And it feels so uncomfortable at first. It feels so uncomfortable. But all it takes is just thank you.
It's very powerful and it's not easy.
Yes, it's not
very
easy.
powerful to receive when somebody gives you.
Yeah.
And that is so true what you said, because it is happening in my life. It's a very powerful statement you said, but it's not easy for some people.
No, it's not, because we've been taught not to.
It's not taught, I think it's just a personality thing too, and it comes with a lot of underlying things like why should I, I don't know how to say it, but sometimes it could come across as you're greedy. Right now, the necklace I'm wearing is given by a very good friend here a long time ago when she saw me buying so many stones. And you know what you said? When you receive very consciously and humbly, the universe gives to you. And it has happened, magic happens. But you got to receive not out of greed, but because that person wants to give it to you. You know, I can't explain this. That person wants to give you something. It might be anything. And you take it, because they're giving it.
And what a gift to them.
And it's a gift. It's just you're accepting their gift. Similarly, the universe just brings in something else. Yeah. That's what I want then.
Absolutely.
Very powerful.
It's so true. It is so true. So lean into those little opportunities to receive compliments, to receive that coffee. And you don't have to say, oh, I'll get it next time. Just open up. Thank you. I receive. Another way is to feel good about spending on your money by aligning it with your values. So you know those words that we circled right at the beginning with your values. So if health is a value of yours, feel good about spending money on your health. And if spirituality is one of your values, feel good about spending money on your spirituality. So take away that guilt and align your spending with your values. And similarly, maybe don't spend money on things that aren't your values. You know, use those as your filter for when you spend your money. Role models. Identify some role models that turn your money stories on their head. So this sounds really strange, but I had a money story that to be wealthy meant being slim. And, you know, if I was a slim white woman who worked in investment banking, something like that, I would be, that's okay to be wealthy. I started turning things on their head. I thought, okay, I'm going to look for examples of women that are coloured and women that are curvy and women that do good in the world. And I came upon Oprah. Oprah is an awesome example for me. So look for examples, and they don't have to be celebrities. They can be people, you know, in your circle, in your life, but look for examples of people that turn your idea of wealth on its head. And it just gives evidence to your brain that it's possible. And the last thing is talking about money, which we've done today. As I said, women, one of our superpowers is talking, and that's one of our best ways of learning about things. So someone along the line told us that it was impolite to talk about money, and I suspect that person was probably a rich man who didn't want us to learn about money and didn't want us to become powerful. So find people, women who know a little bit more about money than you. They don't have to be super experts. They just might know a little bit more about investing or a little bit more about putting together an awesome CV for your next job, or just a little bit more, and talk about it and learn from other people, because it's one of the best ways to learn. And we live in the information age where there is so much on the internet and so many books. So money is not something that you're born good or bad with. It's absolutely a learned skill. So, go out and learn about it, and you will reap the rewards for a lifetime. And so I do have in the workbook, there is some questions about who your role models might be and that kind of thing, but we're running a little bit short of time. So if you feel called to work on that at home, or just to jot down a few things, absolutely do that. So it's been really amazing to be with you here today, and I hope that it's helped you to see money a little bit differently than you did before you came into the room. And please remember that the world needs more money in the hands of more women. And if you'd love to know more, please come and chat with me. I'll be here for the rest of today. And I work one-on-one with incredible people like you to uncover your money stories and reprogram them. So my website's on the workbook if you feel like having a look. And I'm also offering KAA members a 20% discount on all my services. So please get in touch if that's of interest to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.